players, welcome to episode number 15 of the Sports Plus Live podcast. My name is Edgar Mr. aka Rodriguez, and I don't even know who wore number 15. I wasn't prepared for this. 15. Was it Nemanja Vidic? Nemanja Vidic, Sports Plus Live episode number 15. Nemanja Vidic episode, the last episode of 2019. And I just want to thank you guys. 15 episodes, kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal because, let me move this closer, is that in the fact that, I don't know how long it took me to even get this started. How long it even took me to get this podcast up and running for whatever reason. But 2019 was a year, and we did it. October 11th, first ever Sports Plus Live episode. Episode number 1. Don't even remember what I talked about. I'm pretty sure it had something to do with shitty referees and maybe shitty James Harden. But that's besides the point. No negativity today. Maybe a little bit. Especially after this weekend, what Oklahoma did to me. I might talk about that. I don't know. But mainly what we're doing today, we are talking about the last decade. It's the end of a decade. The 2010s. 2020 is coming up tomorrow. Today is New Year's Eve. I wanted to wait to record this podcast because I wanted to get the info together. I wanted to go over significant events or just my personal, my events of each year in this decade. So from 2010, 2019, I wanted to pick the ones, about 4 or 5, maybe even a little bit more things that happened each year that kind of had me in my feels, had me excited, or just was very important, in the decade in general. And so it took some time, took a couple of days to kind of look through, do my little bit of research. Some of this might be wrong, and whatever. I didn't do a whole lot. I said I did a little bit of research, not a whole lot. But here we are, end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, here in a few hours, 12 hours, 11 and a half hours to be exact. And I'm ready. I'm ready for 2020 because we have a lot of goals to meet. We have, we got a lot of sports coming up. We have a whole lot of life coming up. We have so much different stuff coming up. A lot of us are in different points in our life, whether it be bad, good. It's, you can always turn that shit around. Trust me, I would know. I lost a toe 3 years ago. I lost a toe this decade, and I'm still standing. Wobbly, but I'm still standing. And, it's all right. There's going to be a turning point. Sometimes you have to go all the way to the bottom to get all the way back up to the top. That happens. But 2020, hopefully that we all make it to the top. Unless something crazy happens in 2020, like stroke of midnight, a fucking meteor hits us or whatever, or Prince comes back and kills us all. I don't know. But you just never know what's going to happen. So you got to just keep that mindset. Your shit's going to turn around eventually. Trust me. It took me... I started a blog. I probably talked about this on my podcast. One of the episodes of the Sports Plus Live podcast. I started a blog 2009. And in the hopes of getting into sports and getting into all this, just doing something along the lines with sports or just just talking in general. And that was 10 years ago. And I stopped a few months later in that blog post, and it kind of hurt my heart. But, sometimes some people take longer than others. It just happens, Just for example, there's a goalkeeper, 33 years old. I can't remember the name, played for, I want to say Burnley or Aston Villa. Made his first Premier League start, I want to say he's in his 30s, probably 32, 33. Guys are making the Premier League starts at 16, 17 years old now. Messi started when he was 17. Ronaldo, 16, 17. So a lot of people are starting earlier, but it just takes longer for some people, and it's probably just as satisfying, if not, a whole lot better starting a little bit later, gaining experience and whatnot. But it's still very satisfying no matter what don't let age hold you back. That's don't let anything hold you back. Don't let other people's opinions hold you back. Even if they're family members, don't let them hold you back. If there's negativity, leave that shit in 2019. All right, leave that shit in 2019. Leave that shit in 2010s. Just like I'm gonna leave that Oklahoma loss in 2019. We're never gonna talk about it after today. Okay? Well, we might. I'm sure we will. By the way, if you try to get a hold of me on Saturday, I apologize. And if I'm late to text you back, I apologize. Because my friends are dickheads. All of them wanted to chat with me. All of them wanted to text me. People I haven't talked to in 2 years want to be like, oh, what happened in Oklahoma? What the fucking thing happened? All right? We're not going to talk about it right now. It's all about positivity. It's all about moving forward. Let's get to it, man. So let's get to the positivity. Let's just keep it rolling, all right? I don't know where I'm going with this, but let's keep it rolling. Let's keep the positivity rolling. If I can help you out in any way moving forward, I'll help you out. But help me help you, all right? Let's just keep it going. And I want to get to this list, the top moments of each year this decade. A little nostalgia. I can't believe some of these things happened almost 10 years ago. It just felt like yesterday that some of these things happened, especially in 2010, where we're going to start, obviously. But I mean, it's crazy how fast this decade has gone by. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've had so much shit happen, so much crazy shit happen, bad, good, but a lot of stuff happened. Yeah, I don't get it, man. It's just crazy. It's just crazy how this thing went by. But let's get to it. 2010, top moments happened in 2010. We're starting with 2010. And one of the things happened, and there's no particular order. It just happened. I can't rank them. I don't want to rank them. That would have taken a whole lot of work. And this would never come out if I wanted to rank them, because I'd be switching shit left and right. 2010, LeBron James does the whole going to Miami debacle. Not debacle, spectacle. The whole Miami, I've chosen to take my talents to South Beach and go to Miami. The whole hour special on ESPN. It's just like, it was like, why? And then they showed all the, the camera was in like a bar in like Cleveland, and just everyone just sad. Just, there goes your championship hopes. There goes your golden boy. Down to Miami. I mean, who wouldn't want to trade Miami for Cleveland? There's not a whole lot of people that would say, yeah, I'll stay in Cleveland. Do you blame him? No. I don't blame him. No. It was his decision. That's what it's called, the decision. To do whatever he wants. He was grown. But when you sit there and you say shit like, Cleveland's my home, I'll never leave, blah, 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 this and that, you go back on your word, that changes things. And that hurts. You go back on your word. But it all eventually comes first full circle, where it goes to Miami, wins not one, just 2 championships back to back, I believe. And then not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6. He didn't win any of those ones. But he ended up going back to Cleveland and giving them a championship. So it all kind of comes full circle. He rectified his decision. He just made it better. He slowly peeled the Band-Aid off, kissed it, and gave him a championship, which a lot of people can't say in Cleveland. So 52 years, I think, was a drought, something crazy like that. But yeah, he came home, made it better. It was almost like, I don't know. It was almost like, I don't even know how to explain that without being insensitive. But anyways, that's what happened in 2010. The whole, I'm taking my talents to South Beach. I'll never forget that. I think it was like a Sunday, and I was just like, the fuck am I watching? Why am I watching this? But I watch it because it's sports. That's why. Sports Plus Life. Sports Plus Miami Life. I need to go to Miami 2020. Let's make that happen. Let's take Sports Plus Life on the road. Miami is one of the destinations. I'll take my talents there too. Another thing that happened, two things that happened. I think, just kind of two things. There's two retirements that are noted in that 2010 that I think are a big deal for me. One of them being Bobby Bowden. Bobby Bowden, the longtime head coach for Florida State, retired. He retired. Like you guys know me, I'm a big college football guy. I love college football. Bobby Bowden, one of those wholesome Southern dudes. It's a cool dude, older dude. And spent so much time at Florida State. Made big impacts. Part of those whole Florida State Miami rivalries that were just ridiculously crazy. Wide right, wide left, wide everything, except for down the pipe. But he's been a part of all that thing, all that stuff. Legend in the sport, legend in head coaching, especially college history. And that's a big deal because you don't find a lot of guys like that anymore who stay for a long time. And that's one of those things. Like you just had Bob Stoops as one of those last few guys that stayed at a program for so long. Coach Snyder in Kansas State, you don't see that anymore. You just don't see stuff like that anymore, which is pretty crazy. But Bobby Bowden retired in 2010. He just brought 2 national championships. Florida State still is a highly ranked recruiting team. They still bring a lot of talent to Florida State. They're still always in the top 10 as far as recruiting goes. And you owe a lot to Bobby Bowden. But that one's one of the retirements that kind of made an impact for me, anyways. Other one is Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey Jr. I grew up. I never played baseball, but I watched it. I always watched it pretty closely, especially the reason why was because of Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey Jr. had the hat backwards, had the video game on the Super Nintendo, I believe, maybe the regular Nintendo, I can't remember. Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball, I think is what it was called. But there was, he did a lot. He did a lot for, for baseball, just kind of transcending it differently. One of the first few guys to show up, wear the hat backwards, go take hitting practice, batting practice with the hat backwards, which is a cool dude. Had the stance as well, the very different stance. Very athletic, outfielder, I believe. Told you how fucking shitty I am at baseball, but I'm pretty sure very athletic dude. And just, it was just different for baseball, which is good because baseball needs stuff like that. Now everyone wears a hat backwards. Even Tiger Woods wears his hat backwards. I think you have a lot of it has to do with what Ken Griffey Jr. did, especially in baseball. And just a cool dude, and just it was like one of those kind of like Michigan wearing the long, the Fab Five, Chris Webber, Jalen Rose, all those guys wearing the longer shorts and the black shoes, and it was cool to do that type of stuff. Ken Griffey Jr. was cool for them to finally wear their hat backwards. Just be a cool dude, glasses, all that stuff. Just smooth brother. Retired in 2010, but that's why I chose him because if I would always get the Ken Griffey. You used to tear the card out of the Kids Sports Illustrated. That's right, and you get the poster sometimes. At the Scholastic Book Fair, you'd get those. Remember that? I know a lot of you guys do. I'm that old, just so you guys know. But anyways, that happened in 2010. Another thing that happened in 2010, and you could look at it, one of the big reasons why we probably have, one of the starting reasons that got the ball rolling was we're still sticking with baseball, is getting the instant replay put in baseball. And this was 2010. Armando Galarraga got his perfect game taken away from him by an old referee, like one of those referees that looked like a walrus, with the mustache. He was an old dude. And how he got that wrong, I still don't. I mean, I look at it and I think even I can. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I remember watching this and I was like, I can't believe he got that wrong. I remember watching it thinking he just screwed him out of a perfect game. And Armando Galarraga, good dude, didn't fret. I mean, just smiled and I was like, oh, okay. Okay, dude. He just laughed and kind of laughed it off. But it's a big deal. Perfect game is a big deal. You could hold that on your resume forever. And they'll talk about that for a very long, long time. 27 up, 27 down, 27 outs. No one reaches the base. That's a big deal in baseball, especially in baseball where it's stat-filled. Everything has stats attached to it. And he got screwed out of it. And I think you could look at that as to probably one of the big reasons why we have instant replay. One, the starting topic. I think we probably started talking about it back then. Probably talking about it way before then, but why we actually have it now. You could challenge that type of shit now. You could challenge, you could say, hey, that wasn't an out, that was safe, or that wasn't safe, that was an out, and I want my perfect game back. And that sucks. That just sucks for him. That sucks that he had to go through all that. But yeah, that's just one of those things that was one of the big things in 2010. The guy got his perfect game taken away. I think it was June of 2010. That sucks. Manages life. You know, you got to move on. I don't remember who won the World Series, but that's what stuck out to me in 2010. Then he was like, "Oh, I took it away from him." I was like, "Yeah, whatever. Don't need to apologize. That was racist. Taking away Galarraga's perfect game was racist." Just kidding. I don't know if it was race motivated, but that was pretty bad. Anyways, moving on. Last thing, 2010. Well, 2010 was the World Cup. 2010 World Cup happened. And one of the big things that happened in that, and this is like kind of engraved in U.S. history, in USA in general, was the 2010 World Cup, the Landon Donovan goal against Algeria. I did my math here. I did my homework here. I believe it was against Algeria. That sent them to the round of 16, which they ended up losing. I can't remember who they did, but I will never forget that. I mean, it was just kind of to set the scene. It was like 8:30 in the morning here. Games were in South Africa. The games were in South Africa. So it was 8:30 in the morning. I'm drinking. I have a couple brews. I'm pretty sure it was Bud Light Limes. And this isn't sponsored, by the way. Bud Light Limes, me, my friend Coach Tim, just him and I. We were just up watching the World Cup, 8:30 in the morning. That goal is to send the Landon Donovan goal scored to send them into the round of 16. I'll just never forget it. There was a shot. Tim Howard grabs it, throws it damn near to half field, out to Josie Altidore. Josie Altidore running down the right side, crosses it into Clint Dempsey. Clint Dempsey, the keeper comes out, stops it. Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan comes in, cleans the trash up, puts it in. I think we ended up tying that game to go through. But I just never forget that goal. I don't even remember what happened after that. I just never forget that goal. It was just one of those, it was just a feeling that you just never forget. I remember it was 8:30 in the morning. It was loud. I was just jumping out of the couch, just yelling. Just, I can't believe what just happened. I can't believe we're going through. I can't believe this. I can't believe that. I want to say it was Ghana that ended up beating us in the next round. But I'll never forget that goal. And in a lot of these things, a lot of these videos, I'll go ahead and link them in the bio. If you're watching on YouTube, listening on YouTube, I'll link in the bio so that you can check it out and you can kind of see what I was talking about. But I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that goal, Landon Donovan. And this isn't the last time we talk about the USA and the World Cup either. We're definitely going to talk about them again here in about 4 years, which 2014 is what I mean, not 2023. We're going to talk about them here soon. Here in the little rundown here, little thing we got going on here, little decade rundown. But those are the things that happened in 2010. I'm sure a whole lot more happened. Those are the ones that I chose. A lot of different people won different championships. I'm sure UConn won a championship, the women's UConn. I think Kemba Walker in UConn won that. I can't remember what year. I think that was 2012. Anyways, we're going to move on to 2011. 2011 was kind of a good year. I remember that year. I think 2010 you go on from like hide your kids, hide your wives, because they rape and everybody over here. Like I think that was 2010, 2011-ish. I remember that much. I remember that shit was funny. I'll probably link that down in the description too. But 2011, there's there's a plethora of things that happened. By now, LeBron James is already in Miami. So a lot of big threes. So LeBron James going to Miami brought, of course, Ray Allen, Chris Bosh. I don't think it was Ray Allen that year, but Dwayne Wade is what I meant to say. I'm sorry, Dwayne Wade was already there. And they formed the quote-unquote big three. I think there was already a big three. I don't know if it was like, I think the year before that, I think that was like Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen and Paul Pierce. Big three, whatever, I don't remember. But that's what happened. But this year, the big three was supposed to be that team that you couldn't beat. There's no way you could have beat them. They reached the finals of the NBA Finals. And then they ended up losing to Dirk Nowitzki and the Mavs. Dirk Nowitzki, big German, number 40, pretty much beat this team by himself. I mean, I think he had J.J. Barrera, Jason Kidd, Sean Marion on the team. I mean, Sean Marion. I mean, you thought Lonzo Ball had a shit shot. You guys didn't watch Sean Marion. That was bad. Everything about that was bad. But I mean, you have someone like Dirk Nowitzki, and that solidified him as a Hall of Famer. I mean, everything. MVP, I think he won MVP that year. That's why you have a street named after him this year. Just retired. Dirk Nowitzki, man, number 40. I mean, he's 41, 40. Can't remember his number. Can't remember his number off the top of my head. Lost a lot of memory cells. That's all right. We'll get it back eventually. We're going to start eating brain food 2020, get our memory back, and we'll be okay. Dirk Nowitzki beat him. I think it was game 6, 4-2, 6 games. And that's what I remember about it. I remember watching that series and thinking, holy shit, Dirk Nowitzki is on a different level. Dirk Nowitzki is just a monster. Can shoot. A big guy, 7-footer, can shoot anywhere, can dunk, can post up. Just like I mean, kind of what Nikolai Djokovic does. Jokic. I can't say his name. The Joker does for the Denver Nuggets. He does it all. But I think the difference between Dirk and Joker can pass. He sees he has a different vision, so he can pass very well. Hopefully 2020 we see a Denver Nuggets championship. Same thing. Denver Nuggets take out the Lakers, Western Conference Finals, go to the finals, beat the Bucks. We're in. That's what I'm hoping for. We're not here to talk about 2020 yet. We're here to talk about what happened in 2011. And that's what happened in 2011. That was one of the things that happened that I'll never forget. I'll never just forget watching that. Big Three supposed to be the beast, but couldn't get past Dirk. Dirk, by the way, has jungle fever. I think his wife's black, his old lady's black. So you know that dude's cool. He's a cool bro. He's cool. Might probably smokes weed Don Nelson now. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Anyways, one thing that, moving on to a whole different, because you guys know, Sports Plus Life, we do everything. All sports. Sports entertainment. WWE, wrestling. I'm a big wrestling fan. Still watch it. Every now and then I try to watch it as much as possible. There's so much going on right now. Like I said in the earlier episodes of the Sports Plus Live podcast, is that now we have a whole lot of other stuff going on, a whole lot more organizations, a whole lot more wrestling, and it's hard to keep up, but I try to watch as much as possible. But one thing that kind of stood out 2011, for those of you who watch wrestling, if not, this is definitely one of the videos I'm going to link in the description on the YouTube, was CM Punk pipe bomb. That's all I have to say. If you're a wrestling fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. CM Punk's pipe bombs. Kind of just give you a backstory. CM Punk was given a microphone to say whatever he wanted. They're like, here's you go out there, do this, go make sure John Cena gets put through the table, grab a microphone, you say whatever you want. Whatever I want, whatever you want. And what came out of his mouth was just gold. It was just gold. I don't want to ruin it for you with my adage, my attempt to recreate it for you. But what he said was, it was what they call a shoot. It was real. It wasn't one of those things where it's like, like a lot of the time wrestling is predetermined, prescripted. This wasn't. This was off the top of his head. This was CM Punk just speaking his mind. And it was amazing. And it was just one of those things where you just have to see it to believe it. He was breaking all the rules. He was breaking the fourth wall, so to speak. He was bringing up old wrestlers, something you just don't really do anymore, especially old wrestlers who are out doing things, who aren't in good graces with WWE, who aren't even. He's talking about wrestlers who aren't even in an organization. He brought up Colt Cabana, and that was one of those things where it's like, holy shit, this is real. And the fact they haven't cut his mic off is unbelievable. But eventually, of course, he got to a point where he was going to say something about Vince McMahon, and then they cut him off. But you have to watch it. It was just unreal. One of the best promos. For you guys that don't know what a promo is, a promo is when you pretty much promote yourself. You have the mic, you're cutting a promo. Kind of like you see Conor McGregor after he wins his fights. He cuts a promo. Chael Sonnen cuts a promo. You talk your way into your next fight. You talk your way to, you got to sell yourself to these fans in a certain way with your promo. CM Punk's pipe bomb is probably definitely top 3. In my opinion, for me too, top 3 with Stone Cold Steve Austin's King of the Ring. Austin 3:16 says, I just whipped your ass. Any Macho Man Randy Savage, the cream always rises to the top. Dusty Rhodes, Hard Times, just so many different promos, and that was just one of those ones where I'm glad I got to watch this live, which I did. 2011, I got to watch it live. But it was crazy because what also is crazy about that, and I'm kind of rambling on here, is that his contract was coming up. He was going to wrestle John Cena in Chicago, his hometown of Chicago. And he was really going to leave with that belt. He was going to leave with the belt, which is like a no-no, I guess, in wrestling in general. Win the championship, leave. And he really, seriously, was not going to wrestle anymore. His contract was up that night. And I think the story goes that the next day or that night, I can't remember, by trash can, something like that, he got a contract, I think, the next day. And came back to wrestling. That was like real. He talks about it. I try to find out where he talks about it. Why he left WWE, I think, is with Colt Cabana. Colt Cabana podcast, which I don't think they're cool anymore. There's something happened in a defamation suit, and I don't know. I got to look into that, but that's a whole totally different thing. But CM Punk, that was just one of those things I'll just never forget. And I'm glad I got to see that. It was just pretty crazy. And that was my wrestling thing. I might have a couple other wrestling things up my sleeve down this decade. But we'll find out. You never know. We'll find out. We'll check out here in a second. Moving on, 2011, which is crazy. One of the hardest years to kind of pick just a few things that happened. But one of the things that happened, probably one of the best comebacks you'll ever see in your life, was Czech Congo against Pat Barry in the UFC. Czech Congo versus Pat Barry. Pat Barry is probably like, 5'10", just solid heavyweight. Czech Congo's like 6'4", 6'5", chiseled, looks like he's made out of granite. French dude just looks like Seal, but completely ripped and huge. Pat Barry was giving him the business. Pat Barry knocks him down. Probably knocked him out a good 3 or 4 times. And somehow the referee, Dan Miragliotta, I'll never forget that, did a hell of a job keeping the fight alive because he saw Cheick Kongo wasn't fully out, even though he looked out a couple times. Was going for the takedown, going for the legs, still defending. And eventually got back to the feet. Cheick Kongo was backed up to the cage. Pat Barry is coming in. And Cheick Kongo, just out of nowhere, just laid a right, I believe, and just knocked Pat Barry clean out. Folded him like a lawn chair. I mean, just out cold. Folds him like, like AI did, and then just folded him, slept him. He's out. Referee's checking on him. Then Cheick Kongo just steps over him like AI did Tyronn Lue. You remember that? Lakers, Sixers. He just steps over him and just walks off. Puts his finger in the air like, I got this dub. This is my dub. Just one of the craziest comebacks you'll ever see. You just got to watch it. That's definitely one. I'll definitely link in the bio at the bottom. It's something you got to watch to believe. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget the adrenaline. It was just crazy. It was just nuts. But it was cool. And that's one of my picks here in 2011 that happened. That was just something unbelievable. Another thing that happened, like I said, this is pretty tough. I mean, you can't really beat a whole lot of stuff like this. But Anthony Robles wins the Wrestling National Championship for Arizona State. Now, if those guys don't know Anthony Robles is an amputee. He's missing a leg. And he went undefeated, 36-0, I believe. 36-0, I believe, and won the national championship with one leg. That's crazy. I don't know too many people have done that. Go undefeated nonetheless. But, the reason why it's like, I kind of do want to bring this up, kind of do want to put this in there. I think he might be like in a little bit of an advantage because no one can shoot double legs on him. He could do singles. But who knows? I don't know. Like, I didn't watch the whole journey. I did watch the finals. I did watch that. Everyone did. It's nuts. An amputee winning the national championship in wrestling, especially at a big university like Arizona State. Arizona State's a good wrestling school. A lot of people, a lot of MMA fighters went there. Cain Velasquez, Ryan Bader. I believe CB Dalloway went there. CB Dalloway just got knocked the fuck out earlier today, so we're not going to talk about him. But a lot of good wrestlers come out of Arizona State, and that's why it's a big deal. Amputee winning national championship at a big team like Arizona State. Just unbelievable. Just crazy. I do want to mention a couple honorable mentions. A couple other things that happened that year. Derek Jeter joins the 300 hit club. Big deal in baseball. Like I said, stats a big deal in baseball. Derek Jeter's a big deal in baseball. So that's one of the things that happened there. Roy Halladay threw a no-hitter last year. The year before, Galarraga's got taken away. Roy Halladay. The reason why Roy Halladay is on here is from Colorado. Denver, Arvada-ish. And that's a big deal to me because you don't see a whole lot of people from my state doing stuff like that, which is pretty cool. But moving on to actually the big things that happened, the big bombers was Dan Henderson versus Shogun Rua, 2011. Definitely one of the top 3 fights I've ever seen in my life. I can't explain it. I don't want to do it injustice by explaining it. Just the back and forth, the chins on both these guys. 5 rounds. One of the first UFC non-title fights, I think, to go 5 rounds. The reason why I remember that is because after in the beginning of the 3rd round, I want to say Josh Rosenthal, I think, was a referee. Looks at him. Okay, boys, last round, let's get it. And Dan Henderson, before he starts walking out, just goes, "We got 2 more rounds to go. It's 5 rounds." And Rosenthal laughs, I laugh, and they beat the shit out of each other. Not Rosenthal, Shogun Rua and Dan Henderson beat the shit out of each other. I'll never forget it. I mean, that just is one of those fights that just stand out. And then it is one of the best ever. because it's a fight. It's the type of stuff you want to watch when you watch a fight. Two guys going at it, just two guys not stalling, not one guy trying to take a takedown, one guy taking a takedown, reversing, punching each other, kicking each other, kneeing each other, going for submissions, bloodied up. That's what you want to see. That's entertainment. That's why you watch stuff like that. You wish something like this would happen every time. Unfortunately, it doesn't. But when you got Dan Henderson and Shogun Rua in a cage, that's what's going to happen. Just these guys were just on a different level of toughness, just different level. Just everything, mentally, physically. There's no other way to explain it. You got to watch it for yourself. Shogun Rua versus Dan Henderson 1 is what it is. So go ahead and check that out. I'll try to link that at the bottom. Don't know if I can find that on YouTube, but if I do, I'll hook you up. But the number one thing that happened that year, and it's like I said, it's one of those things that you'll never forget how you feel. And that's why I love sports. That's why I started this podcast, to talk about sports plus life. Sports plus life, just stuff that just made you feel a certain way that you just don't forget. You can't forget. And this one right here is one of those things that I'll never forget. If I was ever going to get a tattoo, because I don't have one, I'm clean as a slate. I'm a good boy. No tattoos. If I was ever going to get a tattoo, it would be because of this moment right here. And this moment just kind of set the scene for you. It's like 6:30 in the morning here, my time. I'm sitting there, Manchester United versus Manchester City, the Derby, Manchester Derby. Derby is what they call it. Derby. It's a rivalry. Derby. We've been through this before. I don't want to go through this again. And it was Manchester United against Manchester City. Scholes gets it from the midfield, kicks it out to Nani. Nani picks his head up, decides to crosses it in, deflects off Zabaleta's back, I believe, and just perfect strike for Wayne Rooney to bicycle kick into the top right corner over Joe Hart. Just never forget it. I will never forget the whole technique, where the ball went, Joe Hart looking at it, the celebration after that. Wayne Rooney runs the corner flag, turns around, puts his hands up like he's God, because he is at that moment, and just takes it all in. Never forget that. I will never forget that goal. One of the probably the best goal I've ever seen. I'm sitting there screaming, waking my roommates up, 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday. I went crazy. I went nuts, started banging on walls, screaming at the top of my lungs. I just couldn't believe it. There is, and I'll try to find this for you guys. There is a video that shows all angles of that goal. And I'll see if I can find it. It was pretty crazy. I think Manchester United put it up. I'll try to find it. It fucking get goosebumps talking about it. Best goals I've ever seen in my life. You guys need to be a part of it. I want you guys to watch that as well. And I will make sure to put that as something you can see too. But 2011, man, that was a crazy year. 2011 was just nuts. But 2012 was a little bit better. 2012 was a little bit better. For many reasons. In 2012, I believe. It's so 2012. Let's set the scene. 2012, everyone's Tebowing. You guys know what Tebowing is? When you put your head down like this, get down on one knee, you're praying. Tebow did that. They call it Tebowing because Tebow was praying. He's a religious dude, and very religious. To the point where he says he's a virgin, has saved himself from marriage. How you do that? How do you do that? I have no idea how you would do that. That's a strong-willed dude. I don't get it. He says that he hasn't done it. I don't believe him, but Tim Tebow's a stand-up guy. But yeah, 2012, definitely want to start off with that. Tim Tebow to the Broncos. I think this is one year where Josh McDaniels is there. They make it to the playoffs. Tim Tebow gets them to the playoffs. 8-8 record, maybe 9-7. I can't remember. But there's a specific moment that I'm talking about. Not the Tebowing, but this is the first wild card game, Broncos versus the Steelers. Overtime. It goes into overtime. Tim Tebow goes into overtime. First play, maybe the first series, I can't remember if it was the first play. Tim Tebow drops back and just launches one to Demaryius Thomas, who I think runs like I want to say like a slant or something, just up and in, and just hits him on stride. And Thomas takes that 70 yards, 60 yards to the crib. And that's it, ball game. I'll never forget, because that's the only thing I saw of that game. I was working, showed up to my friend's house, and caught the overtime game and caught that play. And it was just like unbelievable. My brother was there. A lot of my other friends were there. I wasn't there. It was at home. It was just, I'm sure the play, it was cold as shit like it is right now. Wild cards are starting up this next weekend. It's cold as shit right now. It's about 20 degrees here. It was probably 20 degrees back then. But that place was hot. It was hot. And that's one of the things that happened in 2012, where I was like, I will never forget that. You'd never forget that. Tim Tebow to Demaryius Thomas to the crib. Demaryius Thomas literally takes it to the crib. He goes in the tunnel. He's out. No celebrating. We're going home. We're going to the crib. So you don't forget things like that. That's why Sports Plus Life, that's why I'm heavy about that type of stuff. You just, how you feel. It was crazy. It was nuts. And that's kind of like to begin the year. There's a lot of other things that happened. Kind of some honorable mentions back in 2012. Linsanity. You guys remember Linsanity? Jeremy Lin coming off the bench for the Knicks. Asian dude from Harvard, smart dude, playing basketball. You don't see a whole lot outside of like Yao Ming or something like that. You don't remember a whole lot of Asian dudes, but you remember him. He made a big statement that year. That was his year. Linsanity. Made the Knicks exciting for once. Made him exciting to watch for the first time in a long time. The Knicks need a Linsanity right now. They got RJ Barrett was doing a pretty good job of watching when they played the Nuggets here a few weeks back. But they need a Linsanity. Something like that to spark them. But I'll never forget that Linsanity, man. You just remember that shot he hit and turns around. He's cool. He's just like trying to keep it together. Linsanity happened in 2012. Pat Summitt retired, I believe, in 2012 as well. Pat Summitt, longtime Tennessee Volunteers women's basketball head coach. Brought a lot of championships to Tennessee. But it's a big deal because Pat Summitt was led that kind of charge for women in general in sports, women in sports, especially in coaching. And I think you could, you have a big, you could thank her for a lot of things. Becky Hammon is the first assistant women basketball coach in the NBA. By the way, went to Colorado State. Just to let you know, Becky Hammon could be one of the first head coaches you ever see, women head coaches in the NBA. And I think you have a lot to think. You have to look towards Pat Summitt, that fiery Southern belle. I mean, I always loved Pat Summitt. I love it. Onset dementia took over her, all that stuff, unfortunately. But I think she passed away, I want to say, a couple years ago. I can't remember now, but you're going to have to thank her moving forward. She's played a big part in these women's sports, but a big part for women in general. Back when it wasn't cool to be a women head coach, that was her. Pat Summitt retired in 2012. That was a big deal. Giants beat the Super Bowl. Giants won the Super Bowl, and the Patriots, one of the few times the Patriots gone to the Super Bowl and lost, was against the Giants. Eli Manning 2-0 against the Patriots and Tom Brady. I mean, that happened in 2012. And you probably, you don't even know. You won't. We're talking about that 2012. We're talking about 2019, 2020, wild card games coming up. Finally, the Patriots are in a wild card game. And who knows? They might even make the Super Bowl. So, ending the decade, starting the new decade, we probably wouldn't even see the Patriots in the Super Bowl anymore. Who knows what's going to happen? That's a different video for a different time. Another thing that happened was the loss of Junior Seau. And why I bring this up, it wasn't like anything exciting, nothing to home to write about it. But Junior Seau was that linebacker that you watched. When the same thing, Sports Illustrated got the card. Junior Seau, one of the best linebackers, just flew for the Chargers. We saw him a lot here in Denver. And the reason why I bring Junior Seau up, losing Junior Seau, is I think it was just the way his life was taken. He took his own life, a gun to his heart, and it's a big deal because now there hasn't been more. There hasn't been more of a focus on CTE, on player safety, head injuries, now more than ever in the last couple of years. And that was a big deal. And that's what, a lot of this type of stuff has been trying to be implemented. All these type of, just awareness in general is trying to be implemented. But now more than ever, people are protected. Especially in college, especially this last weekend, you saw 2 targeting calls in the semifinals. There's just not going to be any more tolerance like that. Just trying to minimize those type of injuries, head injuries, CTE. That's why in 2012, that's why it was a big deal. Juniors, that's why I brought it up, is because there was a lot wrong with him. In his head, in his brain, he had brain injuries. There's a lot of issues going on there, and that's what spearheaded all this. One other kind of big notable thing that happened, Khabib Nurmagomedov makes his UFC debut. The Eagle makes his UFC debut. For those of you who don't know, Khabib Nurmagomedov, probably the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, undefeated, beat Smoke Conor McGregor, just made Dustin Poirier cry. And we'll be fighting here in April against Tony Ferguson now to pretty much to solidify who will be the lightweight GOAT, pound-for-pound best fighter. That's going to be a different video. Definitely talk about that when the time comes. But yeah, that's a big deal. In 2012, he made his debut. I don't remember who. I think he knocked him out. But I just remember he made his debut. Anyways, moving forward, one of the big things that did happen outside of Tim Tebow, Peyton Manning leaves the Indianapolis Colts after 15 years. They released him. I think they parted ways with him. I don't know. He was suffering from neck injury, stood out a whole year, got neck surgery, and then they were like, well, I don't think it's going to work. We can't do this anymore. And the reason why that's a big deal, he brought Indianapolis, he brought Indianapolis a title. Indianapolis, when, if you guys don't remember, used to be the Baltimore, Indianapolis Colts, then became the Baltimore Colts, and then became the Baltimore Ravens. And now the Indianapolis Colts are back. So they up and left Indianapolis. There's a big deal about it, and went to Baltimore. And that was a big deal. That was just one of those things where it's like, it hurt the town, hurt everybody. Everyone was hurt about it. Then the Colts came back, and then Peyton Manning was that dude. He was the Messiah. He was he was supposed to bring him to the promised land, and he did that. That's why it's a big deal in 2012 he left the Colts. But why it's also a big deal for me, because it became a Bronco later that year. Became a different Bronco, and a shock move. I didn't think that was going to happen. But I do remember sitting there and thinking, he's meeting with John Elway. I had every confidence in John Elway John Elway would bring him here, and he did. And that's a big deal too, because we'll talk about it here, and eventually we all know what happened, but we're going to talk about it again. That was a big deal that happened in 2012. Peyton Manning leaves the Colts after 15 years, being drafted by them, spending all his, his adult life as a Colt too. It's pretty crazy. You just spend you're a kid, 1997, getting drafted out of Tennessee. You spend your whole life there. It's got to be one of those, one of those things where it's like, God, this my team doesn't want me anymore. Like, what do I do? You got to think that crossed his mind. Even Peyton Manning, as good as he is, was like, what the fuck? But yeah, one other thing. I think we got two things. The first thing we're going to talk about. The first thing before the last two things. First thing is probably the best knockout you ever seen, up until what Jorge Masvidal did to Ben Askren. The best knockout you ever seen ever is Edson Barbosa knocking out Terry Edom. And I want to say that fight was in Vegas. For some reason, I want to think it was in London. I can't remember. I have to double check. But just a spinning wheel kick, just a spin, and just knock Edom stiff out. Kind of similar to what Ben Askren happened to Ben Askren. He was just out, but it was just a spin. It would happen so fast, clips him, stiffens up, and he lays there, just knocked out. Bad. Everything was just kind of crazy about that because Joe Rogan's commentary at the time, as he was saying that, he's all, at this point, if you're Terry Edom, do you risk going for broke or getting knocked out? Then he got knocked out right at that moment. It was crazy. I mean, everything kind of just played in together. But just the sheer technique, the spin, just everything about that was just crazy. And that's one of my top 2012 moments. Top knockouts ever. Definitely number two now. Definitely probably number two now. It's just nuts. I'll never forget that. I don't think too many people will if you were watching that. I was definitely watching it. I watched everything. I watched all the UFC fights. The last thing I want to talk about in this I don't know, man. I don't know how to say it. Like, it was like next to like getting my heart broken. This, like, by like in high school, I asked this girl to prom and she said no in front of the the whole school. This one hurts the most. 2012. If you're a soccer fan, you know what I'm about to say. You know what I'm going to talk about when I say Aguero. That will never leave my head. That's going to haunt me till I'm like 70, if I make it that far. That is going to haunt me. That commentary, that whole day. So just to kind of let you guys know what happened. This is the last day. So the last day of the Premier League, they show all the games at once. And they show all the games at once. And they so like, I don't know why, I can't remember why they do it. Just kind of make it exciting, I guess. But they show all the games at once at the same time, 8 o'clock in the morning, our time. This year in particular, I talked about it earlier, 2011. This happened in the same season. Wayne Rooney scoring that goal against Manchester City. April, May, last game of the year. Manchester United just beat Sunderland. Right now, at this point, their game is over. They're the Premier League champions. I'll never forget this because I don't know why. I'll never forget it. I remember watching it. They beat Sunderland 1-0. Wayne Rooney scored, I believe. Phil Jones has his shirt off. Everyone's celebrating. And then they switch. They switch to Manchester City against QPR, Queen's Park Rangers. And I'm sitting there. The score stays the same. It's 1-1. And all QPR has to do is not let him score. I think Joey Barton, just one of the pieces of crap of football ever, soccer in general. Foul somebody, And then from that foul, I think it goes, I just never forget. I think it goes Mario Balotelli out to Aguero. Aguero dribbles through. Aguero hits the back of the net. Takes his shirt off, twirling it. They just won the they just won the Premier League championship. I'll never forget that. I think my sister was downstairs with me watching, and she could see just like whiter than I am, just my blood leave my face. I'm about to cry. Just heartbreaking. And one of the most exciting years you'll ever see in the Premier League. And why I always believe the Premier League will always be one of the best leagues ever is for that very moment right there. Well, you couldn't get any closer than what happened that day. Any closer than what happened that year. Just unbelievable. It was just unbelievable. And I'll probably post that video down there in the description as well. But amazing. It's just amazing. If you take the fandom out of it, couldn't believe what I was watching. It was just crazy. That kind of like, that was in 2012. So many crazy, exciting things happened. Ups and downs. That's a big, ups and downs, this left and right. All this stuff happened in 2012. And we still got like 7 years to talk about too. So this will be a long video, long audio. As I'm looking over, I think my podcast just went out. I do this differently. The audio, two different things. But looks like it's just going to be a YouTube video now. Anyways, moving on, 2013. 2013 just gets crazier. Just a crazy day, just a crazy year. So many firsts happened. Where do I even start? I don't even know where to start. I'll start with WWE. WWE, WrestleMania 29, I believe. Yes, I believe. WrestleMania 29, Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania ends to Brock Lesnar that year. Those of you who don't know, Undertaker had a streak of winning at every WrestleMania. He was 21-0 at that point. 21 WrestleMania straight, 21 WrestleMania dubs until Brock Lesnar. That was just brutal. I think in that match in general, because people like to say wrestling's fake. Wrestling's predetermined. There's nothing fake about the falls they take. But I think Undertaker suffered a pretty good concussion early in that match. And getting F5'd 3 times. If you don't know what F5 is, you can go ahead and look it up. Brock Lesnar F5. Getting F5 3 times, taking all these crazy bumps. It was a crazy, crazy match. And it was a big deal for him to lose because, you never, as predetermined as it is, you never thought he would ever lose a match. And Undertaker is one of those people you probably put on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling. One of the best to ever do it. And that's why it was a really, really big deal that Brock Lesnar broke the streak. You don't forget. You don't forget. My jaw dropped. Paul Heyman goes in. Was like, oh my God, just exaggerated as Paul Heyman would do. Oh my God, I can't believe you did it. You did it. You also see that dude. What did he have? I can't remember what he had. I can't remember the shirt he had, but his eyes are like bulging out of his eye sockets. Like, you'll never forget. Just stuff you never forget. And that's one of the big things that happened in 2013. And it's crazy. As a wrestling fan growing up, if you're ever a wrestling fan, you remember The Undertaker. It was just nuts. You never think that was going to happen. Then it happened. It happened one more time after that, but we're not going to talk about that. No point in talking about that. Another thing that happened, another one, Ronda Rousey becomes, I think she officially became the bantamweight champion. It was handed to her 2012. 2013 was the first UFC women's championship fight. Ronda Rousey against Liz Carmouche. It's just crazy. This is one of those things where the reason why it's a big deal because Dana White said he'd never have women's MMA in the UFC. And now you have people like Amanda Nunes, obviously a big name now, Chris Cyborg, Misha Tate, who was a big name, Holly Holm, who we'll definitely talk about here in a little bit. So many different women, Kat Zingano, that have made good names out of themselves, especially someone that you got to think. But there's lots of people before that. Now, Gina Carano. Gina Carano was probably that women's face before Ronda Rousey in Strikeforce. Ronda Rousey showed up in Strikeforce, started turning heads. Same thing in the UFC. Ended up beating Liz Carmouche second round, I believe. Choked her out with the rear naked, I believe, or an armbar. I can't remember. No. Liz had a rear naked on her, couldn't seal it. I think she ended up losing armbar, something like that. But yeah, I mean that was a big deal. First women's fight, first women's title. Liz Carmouche was a Ronda Rousey. That was a big deal because Ronda Rousey now is still a kind of big name, taking it to hiatus. Now in wrestling, does WWE headlined WrestleMania this last year in 2019, which is probably something I should have put on there, didn't, but it's too late now. But just give you a little tidbit, she did headline WrestleMania. First women's headlining WrestleMania, first women's match ever headline WrestleMania. So a lot of firsts, 2019, and it was because, stuff like that, 2013, what Ronda Rousey did. She's transcended women's sports in general. And it's a good thing. It's cool that she can do all these type of things, and especially for women in general, because I have a niece. Never, like, before my sister had my niece, I was like, dude, it'd be cool to have a son or a nephew. Women are cool, and babies are cool. Girls are cool. Just watching them grow, they're way smarter than men. Boys in general, I've seen that a lot, and so if I ever get the chance to have a kid, hopefully it's a girl. If it's a boy, I'll like it too. They're just harder to keep alive, obviously. Case in point, look at Brock Lesnar and Undertaker. Undertaker getting concussed all the time. I don't want that. But that's life. Ronda Rousey, 2013, winning the women's bantamweight UFC championship, first ever women's fight in UFC. Sticking with UFC, Chris Weidman knocks out Anderson Silva later in that year. I want to say later in that year, maybe July that year, to become the middleweight champion, ending Anderson Silva's middleweight reign. Anderson Silva set a lot of records. Most championship fights, most championship defended, just so many different records, and came out, and he looked unbeatable. Great head movement, smoked Forrest Griffin, smoked Stephen Bonner, all at 205 pounds, and Chris Weidman. Is just what I think. Chris Weidman was still kind of green. I think still kind of new. Still had a lot of fights coming up. I mean, I feel like in 4 fights, but I think he was still green, which is pretty crazy. And I think that's there's that mentality. It's like, I don't care like who you are, I'm gonna knock you out. And he did that. He knocked out Anderson Silva. Clean left hook. Anderson Silva was doing his thing, but misjudged it. Chris Weidman knocked him clean out and won. That was a big deal, big upset. Because Anderson Silva didn't look beatable. Still one of the GOATs. Still one of the greatest of all times. Anderson Silva, one of my favorite fighters ever. George St. Pierre, John Bones Jones. But still definitely one of the GOATs, but that derailed him. And that kind of started almost like the end of Anderson Silva. Because Anderson Silva, I remember the last time he fought, I think he got popped for PEDs. Yeah, I mean, I think the last fight was against Bisbee. I don't remember when the last fight was. But it's been a while, and yeah, I mean, that was a really, really big deal. That was a really, really big deal that year. And I'll never forget it. Kind of moving on to a little somber time. Boston Marathon bombing happened in 2013. Very sad. I remember watching it and just thinking, holy shit, like what just happened? 3 people were killed, 16 people lost limbs. So it was, it was just horrible. I mean, I really don't want to talk about it. It was kind of brings up bad memories. If you ever want to watch something that kind of talks about it, it's the Newsroom. Newsroom season 2, maybe season 3, I think is what it was. Season 3 talks about it. It's pretty cool. I like that show. If you're watching on HBO, Newsroom season 3, pretty cool. I mean, you got to check it out. but it talks about it very well. A pretty cool episode. I think it's the first one too, in that season. But yeah, I mean, it's just a big deal because I mean, it's the Boston Marathon. Many people from different countries, different colors. I mean, just everyone just goes, enjoys the marathon, runs, walks, whatever. It's worldwide, and for that, something like that to happen at the finish line, pretty, you know, it was a dark cloud. But then, you know, as you know, everything, you know, everyone, one person, one of the suspects died. The other one, I think, is getting the death penalty. Don't remember the names. Don't really care. One of them died. The other one in a shootout. In like, yeah, it was just pretty crazy stuff. But anyways, kind of moving on. Something a little bit. Some couple honorable mentions. Honorable mentions that year, Manny Pacquiao got knocked out cold by Juan Manuel Marquez. If you don't remember that, I mean, Manny Pacquiao was, I think at that point, was still trying to fight Mayweather. Mayweather wasn't, I don't know what happened there, all the politics, all that shit. So he fought Juan Manuel Marquez. I think it was the fourth fight. They had bangers, they had great fights, classics. I think Pacquiao won like 2 out of the first 3. 2 wins. I think one was a draw. And then this one right here, Marquez got his revenge. I don't remember the round, but I'll never forget because I remember the setup. Pacquiao fakes a jab, and Marquez was training to see that, fake the jab, and then just Marquez throws a right as Pacquiao comes in with the second real jab, eats the right, knocks him out cold right in front of his family. I'll never forget that. I mean, you're just laying there, just like you're just out. Just crazy. One of the best knockouts you ever seen, hard knockouts you ever seen. Marquez, one of the toughest dudes, tough Mexican fighters. You know, just those guys are just. And Manny Pacquiao, one of the greatest ever. So that was a big deal in 2013. One big play that happened in 2013 was Jadeveon Clowney cleaning out Michigan running back. You remember that? He goes through the line untouched. They hand the ball to the running back, and Clowney hits him, knocks his helmet off, fumbles the ball, and recovers the ball all in like one swoop. I'll never forget that. It was crazy. I was watching it live. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the hell just happened? A shotgun went off, fumbles on the ground, and the fumble, balls on the ground, all that stuff. Kind of a little bit more, other play that kind of ended at the end. Not one that ended at the end, or this one did end at the end, was I believe it was Auburn over Alabama. Let me double check here, make sure this was the right year, because I remember seeing this and thinking, holy shit. Yeah, 2013, Auburn over Alabama. Alabama goes to kick a field goal, long field goal, doesn't make it. Auburn is at a 109-yard line in the end zone. I can't remember the name. Kid grabs it, takes it 190 yards the other way to win the game. That's a heartbreak. You're going to kick the field goal to solidify the game. You end up losing the game on that same field goal. Crazy. Go ahead and look it up. I'm not gonna put that down there. Description. Too many description videos down there. Go ahead and look it up. Auburn versus Alabama. I'm sure it'll be one of the first ones you see. Also, one of the most. I don't know how to explain this. The butt fumble. You know what that is? A butt fumble. Mark Sanchez for the Jets goes like, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's a broken play. Just goes and tries to run the ball or picks it up and runs right into the butt of his lineman and fumbles the ball and just like gets derailed by this linesman's butt. There's no way to explain that. It just butt fumble. Just go watch it. Don't go to like a porn site and watch it. Go to like Google, YouTube. It'll find it on there. Butt fumble. Okay, that's all you gotta know. But that's happened in 2013. Something no one will ever forget, especially if you're a football fan. I didn't watch that live, but I saw that, and I was like, that sucks. And I knew that's something that no one will ever forget, and no one has ever forgotten. Mark Sanchez now is an analyst, I believe, for Fox. Poor guy. No, CBS. I don't remember now, but I'm sure they bring it up all the time. Um, Couple of things that happened. Ravens win the Super Bowl. I think that's the one where Ravens beat the Niners. Ray Lewis's last year. That it was a cluster in general. John Jones versus Gustafson won. The first time Gustafson ever, or the first time John Jones ever been tested. One of the best fights you'll ever see. Go ahead and check it out. But the one thing I did want to talk about, 2013, and it's close to me. Like 2012. You'll see 2012 was like a big year, but 2013 was a little bit kind of more somber. That one hurt, but this one it still stings a little bit just because given how the club has been since then. 2013 was a retirement of Sir Alex Ferguson. Sir Alex Ferguson, one of the best managers, one of the best coaches ever. There's 26, 27 titles, European titles, World Cup just World Club titles, not World Cup, World Club titles, domestic titles. Just one of the best to ever do it. And there's not been anyone since him. It's one of those things nowadays where it's one of the last of his kind. Sir Alex Ferguson, 26 years, not 26 titles. He been 26 years at the club, 27 years at the Manchester United club, Manchester United football, brought him back famously for saying, I came to join Manchester United to knock Liverpool off their fucking perch, and he did that. Liverpool hasn't really won shit since then up until this last year coming up. And took Manchester United to one of the most winningest clubs. Of course, now because of them, they're very profitable. Because of him, they're very profitable. He is very famous for the class of '92, which is a legend on top of legend. Gary Neville, Phil Neville, David Beckham, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt. Just so many, that group of people, world-class players, and they're all from Manchester United Academy. All become world-class players. It's just that's one of the things he did. He brought them from the ground up, made a lot of good players from the ground up. He gained respect from everybody, and he still has the respect of everybody. Reason why this is a big deal for me, because the team has not been the same since. I don't think they've won a championship since 2013. They've hardly won. They've only won a couple FA Cup titles, and just kind of been stale since then. But that's why it's a big deal, and he's one of the best to ever do it. In 2013, that's the last year of Sir Alex Ferguson, and hopefully, it turns around. You never know. 6 years ago, who knows? But that was a big deal in 2013. Now, let's go on to 2014, because this is going to, like I said, it's going to be a long video. I don't want to keep you guys too long. But 2014, everyone was doing the nay-nay, all that stuff. 2014 brought in You the Real MVP. You remember that? All those memes, You the Real MVP. Oh, you bring me a beer when I'm too drunk. You're the real MVP. Those type of memes. Kevin Durant won the MVP title 2014. Spurs win the NBA title as well. That was like the last championship they won, and that was like the last time you'll see the big three, like those three: Ginobili, Parker, Duncan together. Because I think Duncan retired like the next year, or he retired not too long after that. But it was a big deal. That was a big deal in 2014. It was the Spurs and the big fundamentals, the Tim Duncan. They beat, was it the Cavs or the Heat that year? I think it was the Heat. Just a big deal. But also 2014 brought on the 2014 World Cup. Germany wins the 2014 World Cup. Germany goes out there and famously smokes Brazil 7-2 in Brazil, and just has the whole stadium crying, has the whole country crying. Just put hand. I think it was like the round of 16 too. It was beating them bad in the round. And that was a black eye for Brazilian soccer, because like everyone's crying. It's just like Brazilians like to cry a lot. I noticed. You watch them in like fighting. You watch them in the World Cup. Yeah, they just like to cry, and it was like almost a black eye because like it was just embarrassing. That just doesn't happen in Brazil. They've gotten softer. Um, yeah, and they didn't. Yeah, I don't even think they made. Actually, I think that was like 7-2, beating bad to not even get into the round of 16. I believe that's why it was a big deal. In Germany as well. So though you don't know, if you host the World Cup, you automatically get in the World Cup. And so Brazil automatically was in. They didn't have to do much. I think they still played. They didn't have to do much. They were automatically in. So when you see like Qatar coming up 2022, like they're automatically in. Who knows? I don't even know if they're gonna like. They're automatically in because they're hosting the World Cup. Pretty crazy shit. I think it's more like of a prize, like a thank you for letting us host, like for hosting the World Cup. So who knows? We're not talking about 2022 just yet. 2014. Let's see what else happened. I remember James Rodriguez scored that sick goal. I don't want to say against the Dutch. Just a sick volley. I never forget where I was at. I was actually in Planet Hollywood in Vegas celebrating my brother-in-law's bachelor party. And yeah, I was in Planet Hollywood watching, and I just saw it. Nuts. Just a crazy goal. Manuel Neuer wins the Golden Glove, which is the best goalkeeper. And then who won the Golden Boot? Messi won the Golden Ball. No, James wins the Golden Boot. Messi won the Golden Ball, which is the best player in the tournament. I mean, it was just, he didn't want it. He was sad. He was like Jon Snow. I don't want it. I don't want it. Like Jon Snow, he wanted the World Cup, and that year they ended up losing 1-0. In extra time, I'll never forget that because I remember watching Sergio Romero, who is now the backup goalkeeper at Manchester United. I remember watching as a goalkeeper myself. I remember thinking he could have saved that, and he fucked up because he anticipated the shot. So when you come out, you make yourself big. You put your hands out like this, and you just make yourself big so that he can't get around you. But what he did when Mario Götze shot, he did this, anticipating it to go to his right. Went right under his fingers on the left side. It went in. I'll never forget. I think that's what I took from that. Not Mario Götze scoring the goal, coming off the bench, scoring the goal. But it was just Sergio Romero just goofing that. It was just one of those things you see. I used to coach soccer, goalkeeper, former goalkeeper. I used to see these things. That kind of makes me mad, but that's what happens. Technique, kids. Technique is going to help you out. Remembering those small things. Don't anticipate those type of things. React. Work on your reactions moving forward. Also in that World Cup, like I told you, I wasn't done talking about the USA. We're talking about them right now. 2014, Tim Howard against Belgium. And why I say Tim Howard against Belgium? Because it was Tim Howard against Belgium, not USA against Belgium. Round of 16. He ended up recording a record 16 saves. Tim Howard did. We didn't lose it in extra time 2-1, but that could have been avoided in regular time. And I will never forgive Chris Wondolowski for this. Chris Wondolowski missed a sitter. One of the top scoring MLS players ever. Has the most goals ever, but he couldn't hit the sitter. And I'd never forget. I remember sitting there thinking Landon Donovan would have scored that goal. But Landon Donovan wasn't part of the squad. And there's another reason why I'll never forgive Jurgen Klinsmann is because he didn't take Landon Donovan to that game, to the squad. He wasn't part of the team for the World Cup. That you needed someone like Landon Donovan, his leadership, his experience. You went very green. You went with Julian Green. Chris Wondolowski lacks experience at the national level. I'll never forget that. I will never forgive Chris Wondolowski for that. That hurt my heart. He missed a sitter. I think Clint Dempsey almost had it, and then he just missed it. I can't. Against Belgium ended up winning 2-1 extra time. That hurt. That one was a little bit painful. I mean, that Tim Howard came out, and Tim Howard, one of the best goalkeepers you ever seen. Top, just world class. Played for Everton, world class goalkeeper. Just retired this last year. It's one of those things you will never forget. A couple things that happened that year too. Mariano Rivera, one of the best closers for the Yankees, retired. 13-time All-Star, 5-time World Series champ, and then 652 saves. Those of you know what he does, he's a closer. So if those of you who don't know baseball, most of you should. You guys have gone to baseball games for one way or another, and you've picked a couple things up. Closer is the pitcher that comes in at the end to pretty much close the game, make sure they seal the game for the team. That's what he does, and he did. When you get that, you record a save. He had 652 of those, so he locked it up. One of the best closers ever. Also that year, very unfortunate issue, and that he hasn't played football since, is Ray Rice. The whole Ray Rice incident in the elevator with his fiance, girlfriend. I don't remember. I think his fiance, girlfriend. I can't remember. But he knocked her out in the elevator, and then like carried her out, drug her out, and then like oh, she's drunk. Don't mind her. In Vegas, I believe is what it was. He hasn't played since. And good, because he's a piece of shit. And that's what piece of shit get. You don't put your hands on women. You could try to put your hands on someone like Ronda Rousey, see what the fuck happens then. You just don't do that. I know it's one thing. I don't know what it is. People are just brought up wrong. People were raised wrong. Was it the money? This guy think he was invincible. Just don't put your hands on women. You just don't fucking do that. I mean, come at me. If you have beef, come at me. I'll fucking fight you. I don't care what happens. You just don't hit women. Don't fucking do that. Ever. I don't give a fuck who you are or how old you are. I was taught at a young age, you don't hit your sister. You don't hit women in general. I got my ass beat for that. And that motherfucker obviously never got his ass beat for that. So, just don't be, it's simple. Don't hit fucking women. And women don't go starting fights. She didn't start a fight. He fucking pushed her. I watched that shit. He pushed her, started shit with her, pushed her, and then he fucking knocks her out. But I mean, it's just one of those things where I don't know what it was, but you just don't put your hands on women. I'm glad you don't fucking play anymore, piece of shit. You don't belong in that. You don't belong in this Baltimore Ravens team. 2019 Baltimore Ravens team. Look how good they are. I don't need you. Piece of crap, little piece of crap. Fucking get Jorge Masvidal on you, bitch. Anyways, before I go off, just like I do on these stupid NCAA people, Ray Rice, I'll put hands on you. Anyways, last thing I want to talk about, Peyton Manning, like I said, becomes a Bronco a couple years ago. Breaks the most touchdown passes record with 509. Johnny Unitas, I think is who he beat. I can't remember, but he won. He won that title. What did he win? He broke that record, 509, which was broken just this couple weeks ago by Drew Brees. So 508 or 509, I can't remember, but Drew Brees is a beast. First ballot Hall of Famer when it's all said and done, going for another Super Bowl. I mean, there's nobody like that dude. But I want to talk about that. Peyton Manning, 2014, he did that. Now, 2015, a lot of crazy things. So let me get, there's a couple like tidbits. That was the year OBJ made that crazy catch against the Dallas Cowboys, which kind of solidified him as one of the top receivers, which I don't think a crazy catch definitely makes you athletic, but I don't think it makes you one of the top receivers. Definitely makes you exciting for your brand. But as we saw, this year, I went and watched the Browns against the Broncos. I was there at the game, thanks to my brother again. I sat there and watched that first drive. Baker Mayfield threw to him twice and went right through his hands twice. Like, you can make all these tough ones and some of the easy ones you just can't. Like, I don't get it. But yeah, that happened that year. OBJ made his name, and yeah, I don't know, you could only be flashy here and there, but you got to be good all the time, especially in the league. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Marshawn Lynch, you guys remember that? Super Bowl, I think it was a Super Bowl. I think that was against the Patriots, which we'll talk about here in a second. Yeah, he's just like, I'm just here. That's how he answered all the questions. I'm just here so I don't get fined. I'm just here so I don't get fined. What a crazy dude. And he finally makes his comeback. Gonna play in the playoffs. Crazy. I mean, just crazy dude. When I'm putting this list together, I'm like, dude, I can't remember that shit. That's crazy that's happened. But the Patriots beat the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, which the Seahawks should have won. And we're talking about Marshawn Lynch. They were at the 1. You just hand it off to Marshawn Lynch, who was running over the Patriots all game. There was nothing about it. Just running right over him effortlessly. He would have gone in, just like he did this last week. He jumps over the line, gets a touchdown. That should have happened. They should have locked in another back-to-back Super Bowl. But they decided to pass. Pete Carroll decided to pass. I don't know if it was Russell Wilson's call in the huddle. I don't remember what it was. But I'll never forget that. Because the camera was right on Richard Sherman, who I despise. And they're sitting there. He's like, look, we got this locked. We're going to win this right here. And then all of a sudden he makes that face when he realizes they're not going to win. He's all. And then gets picked off. And that's game. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that face. Just like the butt fumble, I'll never forget that face. That was solid. Good job, Richard Sherman. Thanks for the gems. Thanks for the gems of faces. And also that year, big deal. Also Peyton Manning career passing yards over Brett Favre that year. The Women's World Cup happened that year, and that was women's just tore it up. They ended up smoking Japan or South Korea 5-0 or something like that. 5-1. I can't remember what it was, but that was Carly Lloyd's coming out. Like she just came out and started banging, scoring all these goals, ridiculous goals from half field. I mean, it was just the Women's World Cup happened like that, and they just rolled. They just rolled. Same thing as this last year, 2019. I'm not gonna this last year in 2019. I mean, it was just. I should have brought. I mean, it's not on my list. Why? Because it's kind of automatic. They're supposed to do that. But it was just crazy. I'll never forget 2015. I remember showing up to my friend Azzy's house, and he's like, they already scored 2 goals. I was like, what the fuck? When did this start? So yeah, I'll never forget that. A big retirement that year, 2015 was a year Derek Jeter retired. Number 2, Derek Jeter. Number 2, Derek Jeter retired. One of the best, probably baseball players ever. He just had it all. The fucking guy just had it all. Was good looking, had the pretty eyes, pretty motherfucker. Had the pretty eyes, was athletic, was good at baseball, had that play, that cutoff. I think it was the World Series playoffs. Fucking gets in, just shoves it out. Like, he just had it all. That dude was just everything. Broke all the shortstop records, 3,000 hit club, like I mentioned earlier. Just, the guy just had it all and was Mr. October, November. Just won it all. Dated all the good-looking girls, had Mariah Carey, all these girls. Like, just disgusts me. But it's a big deal because it's Derek Jeter, one of the best baseball players ever, retired in 2015. Just crazy. He had a great year and good for him. And then he ended it with like that walk-off single, his last game. Do you remember that? That was crazy. It's just the feels, like I said, the feels. We're halfway there to 2019. One other thing that happened in 2015, which I will never forget. Holly Holm beat Ronda Rousey, upset Ronda Rousey for the women's bantamweight championship. She held it all the way from 2013, 2015. I'll never forget that because I called that fight. I knew Holly Holm was going to win. Reason why, let me tell you this. The same thing as Buster Douglas versus Mike Tyson. It had the same feel. Buster Douglas comes in underdog to fight the champion, Holly Holm, to fight Ronda Rousey. Mike Tyson already has a fight lined up after this fight to fight Holyfield. Ronda Rousey has a fight already lined up after this to fight Cyborg. Both fights overseas. Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson, Japan, I believe, and then Tokyo, and then Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm in Australia. And it just had the same feel. It was just in that era. I remember talking to my friend Tim, coach, We're talking to coach, and I was like, hey, I feel it. It's just going to happen. This is going to happen tonight. He didn't believe me. No one else believed me. Knocked her out. Just had a great game plan. Jackson Winklejohn, one of the best gyms in the world, just come up with great game plans and figured out Ronda Rousey. And they fought well. Got the knockout second round, I believe, brutally, I believe. No one's ever seen Ronda Rousey get beat up like that. And then that was crazy. I'll never forget that. I remember watching it and just thinking, I knew it was going to happen. That's why I was a big fucking deal. And that's why you got to listen to me. I'm the new fight professor. I seen these things. I seen them. I feel for him. You guys follow along. Anyways, moving forward. One of the other best fights I've ever seen in my life, Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald, happened that year. And then Michigan State beats Michigan in a crazy botch punt last second. I mean, just Google it. That's all I got to say. Google it. 2016, I'm going to start off, the Broncos won the Super Bowl. And why is that a big deal? Because the Broncos had won 2 before. This was a big deal because it was one of the best defenses you've ever seen. I remember Cam Newton going into the game, said, if you don't like me to dab, you don't like me to dance, stop me. Von Miller made sure that didn't happen. Beat the brakes off of him. Strip sack in the first quarter. Fumble. And then a touchdown. Another sack. I mean, we just beat Cam Newton up. Beat that team up. Another corner on there. I'll never forget Josh Norman crying on the corner. Josh Norman, one of those other douchebags, corners. He's crying like, oh, he didn't win. Yeah, fuck out of here. No one cares. But why is that a big deal? Because that was Peyton Manning's last game. And moving forward, and to another thing that happened, Peyton Manning retired. Peyton Manning retired is probably one of the best quarterbacks, football players in general you've ever seen. Wholesome dude, cool dude. It's a big deal. Peyton Manning, one of the best quarterbacks to just ever live. It's crazy. It is just cool to see that. Cool to see Peyton Manning here in Denver. And then he retired here. I don't know if he retired as a Colt. Can't remember. No, he retired as a Bronco. Pretty sure he retired as a Bronco. Yeah, I mean, you can't say too many good things about him. Too many bad things about him. He's the GOAT. He's one of the GOATs for sure. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, Baker Mayfield. Just kidding. Everyone relax. Chill out. That was a big deal. Also big deal that year, the Cavs beat the Golden State Warriors, being down 3-1 in this series, winning that series 3 games straight. Then you remember that whole LeBron James running down Iguodala, blocking it. I mean, there's a lot of memories in that game, in that series in general. But LeBron James coming out definitely solidified him as one of the best players ever, especially with what just happened there. Coming back from 3-1 down, no one's ever done it. The Cavs did it. Crazy. I didn't think it was going to happen. No one thought it was going to happen. The Cavs were the only ones that believed. It was nuts. It was just crazy. That's the type of LeBron James is a hell of a basketball player. You know me, I'm not a big LeBron James guy, but that made me a believer. A believer in Bronny. Bron, number 23, LBJ. Also that year, 2016 actually was a big year for Conor McGregor. He fought 3 times. He became the champ later that year, in the end of the year. But the beginning of the year, he fought Nate Diaz in that first ever Nate Diaz Conor McGregor fight. And then it was just a crazy fight, one of the best fights ever. I say that a lot. There's a lot of good fights happen this decade, but that fight was really, really good. Conor McGregor game. I think this fight, I don't know if it was like last second. I can't remember, but it was like, I think it was last second. And respect to Conor McGregor because he wanted to do this at 170 pounds. And I think this was last second, to be honest, if I remember right. But I was. He was supposed to fight someone else. Maybe in Jose Aldo. Remember, I got hurt again. But this was last second. And Conor McGregor's like, fuck it, we'll do it at 170 pounds. And my hats are off to Conor McGregor. No champion would take this fight ever. Nobody would take this fight on short notice. Like, no one would do this. Conor McGregor would. There's a few guys who would. but he's one of them, and I respect Conor McGregor for that. It's just nuts. He took that fight 170 pounds, and Nate Diaz beat him. It was a good fight. Conor McGregor's a talented fighter, and it showed in that fight because he was piecing up Nate Diaz. A lot of people piece up Nate Diaz, but this was a different type of piecing up. But this was, ended up getting choked out. And then what happened after that was Nate Diaz coming on the mic and saying, hey, I'm not surprised, motherfucker. I won't forget that. That was pretty cool. But yeah, that was a busy year for Conor McGregor. Champ. UFC 200 happened that year. But one thing that last thing moving on from 2016 going into 2017, June 4th, 2016, that was a big day for me in general. I've talked about this before. It was the day I had like the emergency surgery for my foot. My life changed physically, like it was just something different. And I'll never forget that day because that same day, Michael Bisping takes short fight notice against Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold accepts a short fight notice, respect to him, to fight Michael Bisping just to shut him up because he's a loudmouth fucking guy. And Bisping knocks him out, left over the top, clips him, hits him again while he's down, wins the championship. Pretty crazy for, it was pretty crazy for many reasons, but for that, I'll never forget that day. Because I was planning on watching that fight like at Hooters. I can't remember, but I couldn't. Obviously, it didn't happen. And I remember they were like, well, I was at this specific emergency room, and they were like, you could choose go here or here. And I almost chose the better, like it was I'm gonna say better, but the newer hospital, because I knew there was a chance that I could watch that fight, and I chose the one closer to home just so my family could see me. But that's my mentality. I want to watch fights, and I don't give a shit what kind of state I am. But that's what happened. I'll never forget that. 2016, crazy year for me. Crazy year in sports in general, fighting. A lot of retirements. Just crazy stuff that happened. But moving on to 2017, more retirements. Big Papi, David Ortiz retires from the Boston Red Sox, bringing them championships that they've never had before, breaking the big Bambino curse and all that stuff. Big Papi retired. That's a big deal for Boston Red Sox fans, baseball in general. He was that dude. He was a cool dude, one of those dudes. And you remember back, I was talking about the Boston Marathon, and they had that game, I don't know how much longer after that. And he goes, we're not going to be afraid. I can't remember his speech. I'll probably try to link it down. We're not going to be afraid. We're not going to be this. This is our fucking city. And then that's his town. Boston's his town. You can sit there and call, Boston, it's Red Sox country. It's Peyton Manning. Not Peyton Manning, but Tom Brady. It's David Ortiz's town. Boston's David Ortiz's town. It always will be. But yeah, that's a big deal, retirement wise. And then also Falcons dropping the Super Bowl to the Patriots, famously down 28-3, losing in the first ever overtime football Super Bowl game ever. I mean, I watched it. I remember who I watched it with my friend Luke's house, or our late friend, our late friend Uncle Chuck, and one of the last times I saw him. So there's a lot of memories of that game in general. It's just nuts. I mean, how do you lose that lead? They played it too conservative. I think when you let off the throat and you give them a chance to come back, that's what happens. And I think that's what happened that day. Got a feel for someone like Julio Jones. Julio Jones and Matt Ryan. Julio Jones is one of those dudes that deserves better. This is one of the best wide receivers you ever see. Just a freak athlete, but deserves better. And that was just something nuts. Speaking of Michael Bisping, the year before, George St. Pierre comes back, fights Michael Bisping for the. George St. Pierre was off 4 years, and comes back and fights Michael Bisping for the title, the middleweight championship, and knocks him out. Great boxing. God, he looked good. Holy shit, his boxing looked amazing. Grappling looked amazing. He knocked him out. He knocked him out, and then he choked him out. Is what he did. Knocked him down, then choked him out. Just amazing. I mean, George St. Pierre is one of the goats. Like I said, just a complete fighter. One of those first few athletes. It could do everything. He practices gymnastics to stay in shape. Practices wrestling. I mean, he's still in good shape. I mean, if he comes back right now, I could fight right now. I'm pretty sure. And I would love for that to happen. 2020 might be something to look forward to. Different video. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, I just never forget that. I mean, St. Pierre just looked good. I think this fight was in Brooklyn, New York, I believe. It's a crazy good fight. It was amazing. Just St. Pierre solidified him as one of the best ever. And then he retired like a couple years, a year or two later. We'll see how long that lasts. I think it was last year. But also, 2 boxing matches that happened in 2017. One that I'll be salty forever about. Triple G versus Canelo won. Finishes in a draw. Canelo won, or Canelo lost that fight. Triple G won that fight. Don't at me. Don't get me triggered again. That's what happened. I'm sticking to it. Watch that fight. Triple G won the fight. Just gets me fumed. And but it also is one of those ones where you, like I said, you never forget where you were, never forget where you feel, how you feel about that fight. You'll never forget that fight. The reason why I'm so stuck to boxing, my dad watched boxing. That's one of the things my dad and I connected on is boxing. And I'll never forget that, especially Mexican fighters. So, and Triple G is my boy. And I want him to go, thank you, Edgar. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I'm ready to fight whenever. Triple G, man, I'll never forget that. I did forget where I was at because I don't remember where I watched that fucking fight at. I don't. Holy shit, I don't remember. It's okay. But I'll never forget that fight, which is the main thing. Other fight, crossover. Conor McGregor comes over to boxing world to fight Mayweather. And one of the just the craziest crossovers ever. The whole world press tour was crazy. Going from, London, New York, Toronto, LA, I think Miami as well as one of them. Just crazy. I mean, just the whole thing was a spectacle. Just for, Floyd Mayweather to toy around with Conor McGregor. That's what happened. I mean, let's be real. Conor McGregor never put Mayweather in danger. Yeah, it was just crazy. But that's happened in 2017, and it was just a crazy spectacle. Just something to look forward to. It was just one of those things where it was just a money thing, and they fucking made money. 100 mil for McGregor, by the way. And he didn't have to fight. He's still fighting. So props. But yeah, 100 mil for McGregor. I mean, 100 milli. All right? But that's what happened. 2017 was crazy. It was just every year is going to be crazy. Something crazy happens. And that's 2018, just something else crazy. It was more of like, not like, I wouldn't say hella monumental, as far as historic. A lot of just good sports in 2018. A lot of good sports, sports plays in general. A lot of fighting, of course. Stefon Diggs scoring that last second touchdown for the Vikings against the Saints. I want to know. Oh, one thing. No, it wasn't that one. But Stefon Diggs scoring, like you saw that last second. Kirk Cousins, Stefon Diggs down the side, runs up and gets it. The DB, the safety, I can't remember his name. Just torpedoes, like Ralph Grissom. And that Simpsons meme where he's fucking torpedoing through the fucking front window, the Simpsons window. That's what he did. He just put his head down and just went and missed completely. And Stefon Diggs scored the game winner. And they advanced in the playoffs. Dude, I'll never forget that. I was working with a bunch of my friends. We were just literally closed up. Go in the back. We're all huddled around a phone. And we're like, he's going to score. I'm like, no, he's not. They're like, he's going to score. They're going to win. Boom, it happened. It was like, first the defense in me was like, what are you doing? All you got to do is wrap up, hold them until someone else comes and helps you and knocks him over. And the game's over. And he didn't do that. And I just couldn't believe it. People are like, especially people want to defend him, be like, Well, you never played football. I mean, I played football, not at that level, but I know how to fucking tackle somebody. That's all you had to do was knock him down. All you do is hold him, and maybe someone else will come help you. Hold on for dear life. You win that game, you advance to the playoffs. You probably win the Super Bowl. You don't know that. You don't know that, player. So it's just like it was nuts. It was crazy. I'll never forget that one. That year was the same year Miami had that last second touchdown against the Patriots, where they kept pitching it off. And then Kenyon Drake just ran it all the way down. Gronk couldn't catch him. That's probably another thing I'll probably link down below, and I want you guys to check it out because that was pretty cool if you guys don't remember it. Also, Derrick Henry ran 99-yard touchdown against the Jaguars. I think it was the Jaguars, yeah. I was watching that, same thing. I think I was at work on my phone, and I'm just like, take a peek at it. Boom. He was shoving people. It was just a lot of good plays. 99 yards is like a long way to run with big guys chasing you. I don't get it. Drew Brees takes over Peyton Manning's record for the most passing yards, previously broken a couple seasons ago. And then also DC becomes the champ. Beats Stipe Miocic, knocks out Stipe Miocic to become the light heavyweight and then the heavyweight champion simultaneously. That was a big deal. That was also the year, 2018 was also the year of the World Cup. The World Cup. France wins the World Cup. I picked them to win the World Cup. I got it right. That was a great team, a good team. Paul Pogba, Kylian Mbappe, Lloris. Just a great... I remember Mbappe in that final, man, just is going to be one of the young stars right now. Going to be one of the best ever to do it. Amazing World Cup. Check out the highlights of 2018, which not coincidentally, this is the one World Cup that USA did not qualify for. And that's another reason why I remember that, because they just couldn't do it. All you had to do was get a tie or a goal against Trinidad and Tobago and you move on, and you couldn't do it. And that was famously where Taylor Twellman was like, "What are we doing? What are we doing?" He just lost his shit. And I was like, oh, keep the shotguns away from him. I don't know what's going to happen next in ESPN headquarters. Yeah, I'll never forget that. Another thing I won't forget, two things I won't forget. Wayne Rooney's goal against DC United. So he gets a shot, it's like the last second. DC United goes to shoot, and then someone loses the ball. And they're dribbling down the other side. Wayne Rooney just sprints, gets a tackle. It's like a life-saving tackle. Like, the goalkeeper's out. I think they would have scored. Gets it, takes a couple dribbles, gets his head up, and just fires it in the box. Hopefully someone has their head on it. Sure enough, can't remember who had their head on it, scored it. It was just one of those great hustle, one of those Waza goals. Wayne Rooney, I already talked about him. One of his bicycle kicks, just an amazing player. One of the best English players ever. It's Waza. What do you want me to do? The guy's incredible. The guy's vicious. They call him Waza. All right? You want those freckles. You want those red freckles and shit, and you're not vicious like Canelo. Those motherfuckers are vicious. Anyways. God, there's so much shit that happened. I'm trying to get through this. Rams and Chiefs banger, 54-51. Go check that one out if you have 54-51. It was a Monday night game in LA, I believe. Going back and forth. It was just a cool game to watch. 2018, Browns get their first win in like 2 years by Baker Mayfield. My GOAT. Also that year, last year, Tyson Fury draws against Deontay Wilder, one of the best heavyweight fights you've ever seen. Tyson Fury piecing him up, boxing Deontay Wilder, boxing him up. Last 12th round, dying like the last, within the first minute. I mean, just Deontay Wilder's power comes in, 2 pieces. Tyson Fury knocks him down. And like you can see his body leave his soul, but then just like the Undertaker just gets up. He's like, I'm ready. And like you could see it in like Deontay Wilder's eyes, like he side-eyes and like, how the fuck did you do that? That was nuts. Goes to a draw. Many think Tyson Fury won that fight. I think so. I don't remember. I gotta watch that fight. But also that fight that year, Amanda Nunes knocks out Chris Cyborg, becomes probably the best pound for pound women champion ever, women fighter ever, becomes a champ, 145, 135 pound division. Amanda Nunes, the lioness, one of the best ever to do it. And then also Yair Rodriguez has fight of the night honors with Korean Zombie, and then knocks him out with that elbow. If you guys see it, they're squaring up. Korean Zombie, I don't remember what happened. Kind of comes this way, and Yair Rodriguez slips, bam, and just knocks him out. Last second of the fight, 5 rounds. I say this again, it's not on here if it's not one of the best fights you've ever seen. It's one of the best fights I've ever seen. You guys go watch it. I'll go find it to link it. But yeah, it was just, I mean, my head was fucking spinning. It's still spinning because Yair Rodriguez, I'm pretty sure, is my cousin. We're cousins somewhere, and I'm going to find you and we're going to be cousins and you're taking me to the fights. But finally, we're here, 2019, last year of the decade, first year of the Sports Plus Live podcast. That should be number 1. But it's not, but we'll talk about that here in a second. So many things happened in 2019 that I just won't forget. I won't forget Kawhi Leonard's game winner against the Sixers. I mean, that's one of those photos that are just like, you just see that Kawhi Leonard ducking down like a thug. Like he's just like waiting for that thing to go in. I mean, just bunk, 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 bunk. And just everyone saw this game winner. Oh, it was nuts. I remember watching that. And like I said, it's a feels. I always remember these type of things. I don't remember a lot of like relationship things. Sports is what I remember. And because that's how it made me. You'd never forget. You'll forget people, but you'll never forget how they made you feel. I'll never forget how these things made me feel. Just crazy things. That's why I came up with this list. Long video. I apologize. So much to talk about. 10 years worth of stuff to talk about. And moving forward. And there's one big reason why, and I'll talk about this briefly. I waited till the last day of the year to talk about this. For some reason, I had this hunch that Oklahoma was going to do something historic against LSU. In fact, it was the exact opposite. And but Jordan Burrow was the best player in the country. He showed why he's the best player in the country. LSU showed why they're the number 1 team in the country. That's what they did. They were supposed to do what's supposed to happen happened. I'm gonna have a video coming out about that here. It's kind of more like a not still as like, I don't know. I have a video coming out about that soon, but this week or not before the finals. But yeah, they did what they're supposed to do. I thought something historic was gonna happen. Something historic did. Joe Burrow, LSU broke like 8 records in that first half of that game. You know, so that's just crazy. But I'll talk about that. But that's something that happened in 2019. Briefly touch on. Jose Altuve will walk off against the Yankees to advance to the World Series. Little Altuve, man. What I talked about this. I think I talked about this in one of my first ever Sports Plus Live podcast episodes. Crazy. Just nuts. A little dude like that just cranks it. I wonder how his like strike zone. He probably has a small strike zone. Lucky guy. Game of Thrones. So this has like nothing to do with sports, but Game of Thrones. I got into Game of Thrones late. I got in Game of Thrones in March, April. I don't remember what the series was. That actually changed my life. I love Game of Thrones, dude. I'm gonna watch that shit again. Arya Stark. You know what I'm talking about? Jon Snow. I already talked about Jon Snow. I don't want it. Sansa. Queen of the North. And Missandei. Dude, it's like, and then obviously Queen of Dragons. Yeah, that was this year, the finale, one of the best television ever. HBO over just brings the heat. It's one of the best television shows ever. It has nothing to do with sports. I try to mix it up, but this is the only thing I can think of. But Game of Thrones was amazing, and I'm gonna watch it again. Probably binge watch it season 6 tomorrow, New Year's Day. I have nothing to do. Probably do that. Game of Thrones, because a lot of people were like, well, even like Drake shout out Arya Stark. Do you remember that? When he won his American Music Award, I think, or maybe Grammy, I can't remember. It was American Music Award. Grammy happened in February. Yeah, she was like, shout out Arya Stark, blah, blah, blah. It was crazy. It took over. It took over, and it's pretty cool. Also, this year, Andy Ruiz, upset of the year, upset of a long time, becomes the first Mexican heavyweight champion to beat Anthony Joshua in a short fight notice. A short notice fight. Same thing as the other, like Ronda Rousey and Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas, Holly Holm thing. Same thing. AJ fighting in a different country. Short notice fight. Already has a fight lined up, probably next against Wilder or Tyson Fury. Same thing. Andy Ruiz comes in, balls to the wall, has nothing to lose, knocks him out. Anthony Joshua was winning that fight too. Come back in the end of the losing. I think third round, I think is what it was. The one of the best round was voted the best round ever was the third round. Dude, you never forget people. You never forget how they make you feel. Same thing here. Shout out to Andy Ruiz for that fight last year. For that fight earlier the year. Not a shout out for what he did in the rematch. Bro, you just made us look bad. It made Latinos in general look bad. You made us look like a bunch of fat partiers, which some of us are, but you just made us look bad. I mean, Canelo doesn't make us look bad. De La Hoya makes it look bad. You made us look bad. Like, that was bad. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. makes us look horrible. So that we're supposed to be our redemption, and you weren't, and that hurts. Hopefully the rematch happens next year, 2020. Different video. We're talking about it again. It was crazy. One of the best upsets, craziest upsets, and it happened this year, 2019, to round out the decade. That's why it's on the list. And also two last things. Booga wins the first ever Fortnite World Cup Fortnite World Cup tournament. Big deal, especially for anybody that plays games. I'm a big gamer. I love video games. Try to play them as much as I can. Now I can't like I used to. I love video games. This was a big deal. Growing up, I was told that I would never make money playing video games. There's no money in making video games or playing video games. Now there's streaming. There's tournaments like this. For a long time, Madden tournaments, you used to watch on ESPN, FIFA. There's a lot of tournaments now that a lot of players, a lot of different ways to make money off of video games. So many different ways now. So many different avenues because of technology. I've talked about technology again on the podcast. It's amazing. But now, Booga, who's 16, like, this is definitely a young man's game. 16, people like Booga, who was 16 years old. Just turned 17 today, so happy birthday to him. Also, happy birthday to Sir Alex Ferguson. I almost forgot about that. Don't know how, I can't remember his age. Doesn't matter, he's a GOAT. Someone like Booga, Mongrels, like 16, 17. These guys are just amazing, just great players. Top of the game, and just on the computer. I don't know. I don't know. I think they should still separate the computer console thing. That's just me, but whatever. Yeah, it's a big deal. That's why it's a big deal, because video games are taking over. Video games are different. Video games are mainstream because of somebody like Ninja, and Ninja, Tim the Tatman, Dr. Lupo, Twitch, Mixer, YouTube Gaming now, all getting on the mix. Tfue, Booga, Nick Merckx. So there's just a bunch of different guys, a bunch of streamers that make this game possible and are living their dreams, playing video games. I wish I would have never stopped. I would have been one of those guys. I'd been vicious. I would have been vicious at Call of Duty, but I'm not, because diabetes is trying to take my eyes, and I'm slow. I used to be good at FIFA. No one could touch me at FIFA. Don't come at me on FIFA. I still got it. Don't test me. But yeah, video games are taking over, and it's only getting better and better every year. And you might see me, Sports Plus Life, take Sports Plus Life and Gaming, Sports Plus Gaming Life, next channel. Who knows? 2020. Last thing I want to talk about, probably the best things that ever happened. One of the craziest things that happened, one of the most record-breaking things that ever happened, was Jorge Masvidal kneeing Ben Askren, knocking him out stiff, 5 seconds, Las Vegas. To me, it was amazing. but it's just a testament to Masvidal's knowledge and always being at a high level, fighting at a high level. Ben Askren, high level wrestler. There's difference between wrestling and fighting, obviously. High level wrestler, great wrestler, wrestler the shit out of everyone in ONE FC, Bellator. The UFC is different. He, in my opinion, he's 0-3. That loss to Robbie Lawler should have counted. He lost to Damian Maia, and obviously he lost to Jorge Masvidal, then Damian Maia, and then retired. There's a difference between fighting at a high level and wrestling at a high level, and that showed right there. Ben Askren was so predictable. They were practicing that knee. They knew how he's going to come out. It was nuts. Knocked him out stiff. Like that. He didn't wake up either. He didn't wake up till he got to the back. I think he was like, his hair, like he almost knocked his hair from curly to straight. Never forget it. And that was 2019. I mean, I don't have to talk. I mean, with 5 seconds, what do you want me to talk about? Talk about knocking him out for 5 seconds. That's what it was. That's what happened. Jorge Masvidal, and then Jorge Masvidal had a great year. Best fighter of the year, in my opinion. Got the knockout against Darren Till. Got the knockout against Ben Askren. Beat Nate Diaz in the BMF title championship. Great fight. Just great fight all around. Great fighter. Finally getting his due. There's talks. Canelo is now open to a boxing match with him. So 2020, keep an eye out. But that's it, man. That's what happened in the decade. So many crazy things that happened. So many feels for me. That's why I watch sports, to make me feel a different way. I want to get in my feelings like Drake. 2019 was amazing, especially for me. I took a lot of chances. I left a job that I loved really well, very much, just to get healthy. My foot hasn't been right, but now I get change jobs. I still like what I do. I've met a whole lot of great people this year. Some people have come back into my life that I haven't seen in so many years. And I'm proud of, what direction we're all going. Me, and then also my family. My niece is growing. We're all growing. And, I'm glad I'm healthy. I'm healthier. I'm working on just being healthy in general. I'm just glad 2020, I think 2020 will be a big year. And I won't be able to do it without you guys. And, if this gets, somebody retrieve this fucking audio, I could put it on podcast. This might be the only podcast you don't see. This is gonna be like a trivia question later down the road. Podcast you don't see on audio, just on YouTube. And yeah, I'm just happy in the direction everyone's going. We're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna do big things. We're gonna do big things. 2020 is gonna be a big year. Let Sports Plus Life enter your life. All right. I'm, hey, look at me. Hey, I'm a funny guy. What is that from? Superbad. Hey, look at me. I'm a good guy. Oh, yeah, that's what he said. I'm a good guy. Where he hits Noah Hill or Jonah Hill with the car. Anyway, Superbad. Remember it. Look it up. I'm a funny guy, and I'm gonna keep doing this. I love doing this. I love to hear your feedback. I'm a tough skin. I could take it. But the only thing I ask is, like, subscribe. I didn't even plug any of my social media, which I'll definitely do in the description down. MRAKACO, my personal on Instagram and Twitter. Sports Plus Life on Instagram and Twitter. Find me. Holler at me. We're going to grow. We're going to get bigger. We're going to do big things 2020. We're all going to do big things in 2020. You are as well. So keep your head up. Holler at me, like, share, subscribe. I'll get my terminology down eventually. And Happy New Year, guys. Thank you, guys. I've got a lot of good feedback and a lot of great support. And it's just going to continue in 2020. All right? Love you guys. Let.